Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on Microsoft Copilot. Is your business ready? I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. And I'm going to be your host today, and our presenter is Bud Freund. More on Bud in just a minute, but first some brief information on SCORE. SCORE is a nonprofit national partner of the SBA with over 10,000 volunteers nationally. And locally here at SCORE Fairfield County, we have over 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. And we offer the three primary value-added services that you see there on the screen. First of all, we offer one-on-one business mentoring, and you can access that using the yellow bit.ly link that you see on the screen. And we offer mentoring on face-to-face, video, by telephone, email, whatever works best for you. Secondly, we offer a wide range of educational workshops and webinars like the one today. And lastly, we offer extensive resources on our website, including access to subject matter experts. Our next live webinar will be on Thursday, April 24th at noon, when Meg Yevashevsky and Shelley Oraz will be presenting government contracting, getting government contracts in Connecticut. And again, more specifics available on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. When you're on our website, we also have a large number of recorded webinars that you can access on demand, and those can be viewed at any time just by clicking on the On Demand button. Just some logistics about today's webinar. We have set aside time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please use the Q&A button at any time during Bud's presentation. It's located on the lower part of your screen. And our webinar will end sharply at 1 o'clock to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available on our website within the next day or so. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Bud Freund. Bud has been self-employed for over 40 years after graduating from Ithaca College. His national and international photo assignments were from corporate, magazine, and public relations clients. With the demise of film, he migrated into the digital world and has been providing IT solutions to homes and small businesses for over 20 years. As a certified SCORE mentor, he regularly presents technology webinars and workshops throughout Fairfield County. Bud, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you all for joining us today. It should be a rather interesting hour. Just some backstory on these three items I'm going to be covering. A couple of months ago, I was in Toronto in winter, attending a 10-hour course on Microsoft Copilot presented by a 13-year Microsoft veteran. I am not going to bore you with all 10 hours. We're going to try to consolidate this down and try to give you the most important aspects that I think you should know about this particular Microsoft product. So what exactly is Copilot? Well, it's that little icon that is starting to infiltrate every single Microsoft product that you have and use. And as you can see, it's up there in the top right corner. Microsoft likes to refer to it as the orchestrator. We'll go through some other vocabulary words in just a moment. But what's important to understand is that Copilot is based on this very substantial investment by Microsoft in OpenAI and ChatGPT. By the way, I would have thought that John Belushi would have been a very good idea for the icon. They didn't ask me, so let's just sort of move on here. Many people can say ChatGPT, but what's important to understand is that those letters stand for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is not the actual chronology of what would happen. The chronology would be pre-trained, transform, and generate, because if the information has not been put into the large language model, your stuff will get rejected. And just a quick sidebar here, if you've never heard of steganography, it is the ability to take information and embed it into something else so that it can't be seen. Put a little differently, the image you're looking at is about a 5 megabyte file. If you wanted to include the Holy Bible, the Old Testament, into that image, you could figure out how to do that with steganography. The size would increase about 1 megabyte, and for those who know, they would be able to extract that other information out of the image file. Now, whether you know it or not, AI has been around a really long time. It actually probably started with that irritating nudnik Clippy who was from Office 97 and went away in Office 2007. But if you see those little squiggly lines, that's AI doing work. Important to understand also that in a recent study by Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon, AI is basically dumbing you down. And if you go over to the Google world, if AI can't find the information it's looking for in actual text and information that's been uploaded, it seems to be creating its own. Now, according to Microsoft, they are going to have AI, artificial intelligence slash Copilot, at its best capability in about 5 years. So in Microsoft's world, they're still where that big black X is. Now, one other important piece of information, again, somewhat of a sidebar. If you're a Ted Lasso fan, you will know that he has suggested that you be a goldfish because a goldfish has an incredibly short attention span. However, look it up. There is a 10-year-old study that was done by Microsoft Canada that indicates that humans have a shorter attention span than a goldfish, which doesn't mean very much until you talk to your web designer, who will tell you that if your web page doesn't load in 8 seconds or less, you will probably lose your client, and that goldfish is where they got that number from. Now, I want to go through some glossary here because once you start to get into the world of Microsoft, there's a couple of things that become rather important, and I will expound on them a little later, but wanted to put them all in one place. So if you are a Microsoft subscriber, they think of you as a tenant. If you are a small business, you may be in OneDrive. If you're a larger business, you may be in SharePoint, but that's what Microsoft considers to be its storage, just the storage area. When you talk about Microsoft Azure, that's their entire ecosystem. It could be their hardware, their software, their games, their storage. All of that falls into the Azure Microsoft ecosystem. Microsoft Graph would be your phones, your computers, your data that lives in Microsoft land. We will spend some time in the semantic index. It's one of the more significant aspects of AI that it's important to know about. The orchestrator, that little colorful fellow down there, you press that button and stuff starts to happen. Lighthouse is a piece of software available to Microsoft partners that allows Microsoft partners to track the usage of Microsoft products. And I'm going to, again, give you a little bit more on that in a little while. Grounding, Microsoft believes that your data should not be coming up with all kinds of crazy stuff. It should be your data, and it shouldn't go haywire. Data loss prevention, Microsoft firmly believes that they are trying as hard as they can to protect your data and prevent it from getting out into the world and into other large language models. And for those of you who remember Saturday Night Live, you cannot do anything in Microsoft without at least one duh. So, regardless of what you may think the internet actually is, understand that it is these enormously large windowless buildings that are guzzling electricity at an incredible amount with these very tiny parking lots, because you don't need a whole lot of people to monitor all of the computers that are living inside of there, which of course, as we know, are all infected with worms and bugs and viruses, and that is the internet. So what is this secret sauce that makes artificial intelligence, specifically Microsoft Copilot, run? Well, that's this thing called the semantic index. And as an illustration, I want to use this sentence: the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, which, if you have ever changed a font, you will see this sentence because it contains every letter of the alphabet. So what does the semantic index do? Well, it starts to do this binary code mashup of mixing the T from the with the Q from quick, and the T with brown, and the T with fox, etc., until you have got this 4 to 10 times the size of your data floating around your actual data. And it's got to live somewhere. So where does it live? Well, it's living in those big windowless buildings that are just housing lots and lots of computers. And that is why a search in a Perplexity or an OpenAI or a Copilot takes more electricity, because of this semantic index of stuff that is surrounding it. So, what does it do and how does it work? How does this Copilot thing work with your stuff, your data? This was the illustration that was presented to us. I will walk you through it. In the photograph, you'll see red circles. Think of that as your data, your business data that you want to create a new contract for. And the green circles are things that would be considered generic. So you want to write a new contract between your data, Copilot, and ChatGPT. They are going to commingle to create something new that will not let your data out into ChatGPT, but will allow ChatGPT to come in and massage, create, generatively pre-train, and transform whatever it is that you're working on. This is what Microsoft claims they are doing with Copilot. Now, again, 13-year veteran was doing this training, and he said, and I can pretty much tell you verbatim, there is a Copilot team and a Copilot lead for each one of these various areas that Microsoft Copilot is working on. However, he cannot find a team or a team lead that is involved with the semantic index, that thing that's kind of floating around your data. This is the quote that he said. Now, there were 60 people in the room, roughly, who were listening to this, and the group basically went to either The Terminator or 2001, except for yours truly, who thought about Alfred E. Newman and Mad Magazine. But this is a somewhat unsettling aspect of what Copilot is and does. So let's start to go through a couple of the other pieces that are significant. And before I dive in too deeply, I do want to say that in our chapter, I have a colleague, Matt Krieger, who has done absolutely fabulous presentations on what you can do with artificial intelligence. And that bit.ly on the screen will take you to the 1 hour or so presentation that he did for our chapter. On May 29, we are going to be rerunning a second presentation that he did on SCORE National. I would urge you to watch for that URL to show up. I would urge you to see what can be done with AI, because I'm the bad cop who tells you that things don't always work the way you want them to. So, with that said, generative fill, all right? I used Canva to create the image on the far left. And as you will note, these are not the best hands that have ever been created. Canva uses the visual product that is associated with ChatGPT and Copilot, which is known as DALL-E. So DALL-E created my my generative fill on the left with the not working. And I wanted to take the not working out. So I asked a friend of mine who's a better Photoshop retoucher than I am if he could make that not working quote bubble go away. And as you can see from his quote, it didn't take very long with the Photoshop generative fill command. I tried to do it in Photoshop, and you can see the blotches on the far right. So what else do you want it to do? And again, this notion of, do you have time for the AI product you want to not get it right so that you have to redo it or do it again or modify it? So in doing another presentation on AI, I created the prompt that you see here. These two illustrations come out of Canva. I wanted to create something a little bit different in presentation than these simplistic illustrations. So here goes. Now, what's important to note on these three images are that I'm not quite sure how those cars are going to get out of the pool area. And the two on the left were created in Canva. The one on the right was created in DALL-E specifically. And just as, again, a quick sidebar factoid, the photograph you're looking at was taken by Stanford resident Philippe Halsman for Life magazine in 1948, and yes, that is Salvador Dali. Now, Microsoft isn't having a tremendous success in rolling this thing out, and there's a couple of reasons why. From Microsoft's own research, there is an enormous concern that data is going to be lost. And this is part of why people are apprehensive to embrace these AI products. In a different fashion, where Microsoft is talking about data loss prevention, I would suggest to you that by the time you have figured out that your data is gone, it's out there already. You've lost it. So before, I want to stress this, before you start to use a large language model / AI product, answer these two questions for yourself. Where is your data and who has access to it? Does your data live on local computers? Is it on a thumb drive? Is it in OneDrive or SharePoint? Or is it in Google Drive? Where does your data actually live? And have you set up granular permissions for the stuff that you've got? In other words, if you've got a folder called financials, can everybody in your company have access to it? Do you want everybody in your company to have access to it? This becomes a significant consideration before you start letting computers have access to the information that makes up your business. Now, many people have seen or heard about the fact that Frances Haugen, who wrote a book on the issues that Facebook was using algorithms that were detrimental to kids and keeping them on the Facebook website rather than it was an enticement, FaceTime, advertising. How do you keep everybody going with all of this? As an employee of Facebook, Frances Haugen understood that if she did any of her information gathering by hitting the print button, Facebook would know. If she typed in "send me an email," Facebook would know. So what did she do? She pulled out her smartphone and she photographed her computer screens with her smartphone. So I would suggest to you that if you are concerned with the leakage of the information that is in your company, the only way that you may be able to safeguard that is if all of your employees get a set of goggles just like that connected to a keyboard and mouse, because otherwise, if you've got a screen, you can have a picture of it with your phone and nobody will know. More unsettling is the fact that as the images that are being created by artificial intelligence get better, your employees, can create receipts that are so realistic you wouldn't know if they actually did have lunch with clients or they're just adding in for a little bit more money out of the company. You do not know anymore. Now, I have been told that as time goes on, more and more AI models are going to be embedding steganographically information for computers to be able to read whether this is a real photograph or not. However, as the individual looking at a screen, you don't know if this is the real deal or if AI created it. One other sidebar on this. If you are using a TP-Link router, I would recommend investing in a new one since it has been determined that there is some connection between TP-Link hardware and cyber attacks from China. Microsoft, while they will tell you that they are protecting your data as carefully as possible, as you can see, they've been hacked as well. And just to understand, the black and white photos at the bottom of this screen are from a 10-year-old book by Glenn Greenwald called No Place to Hide, which was the story of Edward Snowden, who now lives in Russia. The photographs are taken of Cisco devices that were short-stopped at the NSA, unpacked, some sort of transponder device, some callback to home thing was put into the Cisco device. The device was put back into the box. It was mailed out of the country to wherever it was going. Put a little differently, we have been doing this espionage stuff for a really long time. We just get annoyed when other people do it to us. Now, also important to understand is that if you do not turn off the scraping that ChatGPT does, the data that lives on your machines currently is going into the ChatGPT large language model. On screen is how you can turn that off so they do not take the data that is on your machines and part of your business. So, Responsible AI. This is where Microsoft says we're trying to be careful with what goes in and what goes out. So I asked for that wonderful John Belushi goggles and cigar to go on to Clippy. AI would not do that for me. However, if you go into Canva, you can get all of these pieces and you can assemble it yourself. When you talk about Microsoft Graph, it gets pretty complex. All of these things that Microsoft has as part of your connection and your usage of Microsoft. Similar in concept to this 15-year-old slide from the Afghan War and this unforgettable quote from General McChrystal. Now, being a Ted Lasso fan, these are the pure Roy Kent moments, and this is a family show, so we'll forego that. But understand, AI isn't running straight and clean. AI believes that a hippopotamus can perform complex medical procedures, so you may want to consider getting a hippo for your heart transplant or whatever other medical thing you need. If you're curious, also, by the way, character.ai will be going to court at some point in the near future because, unfortunately, Mr. Setzer took character AI's advice and committed suicide. So I want to go through some of the fine print items that accompany Microsoft and Microsoft Copilot. First of all, Microsoft partners are the people from whom you as a business would be able to purchase Microsoft products. And if you are getting the best of the Microsoft M365 product, which is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Access, Outlook, and I believe it's called OneNote. I use Evernote, so I may not be fluent in my Microsoft note-taking ability, but partners sell those products to Microsoft customers, tenants. The most expensive Microsoft M365 product, $22 per user per month. Microsoft Copilot, $30 per user per month. So let's move into Lighthouse, which is, as I said, the software that allows a Microsoft partner to track the usage of Microsoft products. So, no names here. Mr. Microsoft notified a company that they wanted to provide them with 300 advanced Copilot licenses. This was back in November of 2023. And in order to do so, they would need a $120,000 check, which the company provided because they were going to get advanced usage on this new Microsoft product. So 14% of the 300 emails that went out were opened. Only 9 of them, I think it was 4%, scrolled to the bottom, and only 1% actually clicked on the link to download and install Copilot. Second company, they have 20,000 Copilot licenses with 4% usage, totaling $7.2 million per year. Now, if you were a shareholder of either of these companies, understanding that Microsoft does not disclose any data about your company, you might find these bits of information to be somewhat annoying. Additional things about Copilot. The recommendation from Microsoft is that rather than calling Copilot an IT project, they find that it has greater success if you refer to it as change management. Since its inception, Microsoft has been deluged with 300,000 requests and has hired 15,000 additional engineers. And if you use Copilot, you will find somewhere in that Copilot window the thumbs up or thumbs down. If Copilot worked for you, give it a thumbs up. If Copilot didn't work, give it a thumbs down and tell them why. Additionally, Microsoft will send their lawyers to your company if you get a copyright violation lawsuit against you as a result of Copilot usage. Understanding that OpenAI has 12 pending lawsuits, including with the New York Times, I believe the Chicago Tribune, and an Indian news organization called ANI. They settled out of court with Scarlett Johansson because the voice of ChatGPT sounded remarkably like her, and they figured it might be a better idea to settle that before it went to court. Also, one other copyright violation lawsuit pending is with Perplexity AI, and that is from the New York Post, a Rupert Murdoch and News Corp publication. Important to note, Perplexity, which both I and my wife use, or correct English would be my wife and I use, provides a citation for any of the information that they provide to you. Final item on this screen, if you see that sentence as the first thing in an email, it is AI generated. So if you want to confuse those who know, use that sentence as the subject line. That is not an AI thing. Now, according to Microsoft, they are providing security and backup within their M365 product. With that said, if your business requires cyber insurance, ask your insurance agent whether the security and backup provided by Microsoft in their M365 product will fulfill the cyber insurance requirements that you may need to provide to an insurance company before they will give you cyber insurance. And a quick sidebar on cyber insurance. It doesn't cover your data. Cyber insurance does not cover your data. Cyber insurance covers the cost of recovering your data or getting new computers because they've been ruined or trashed or they've been wiped or whatever it is. There may be a deductible, but cyber insurance is not covering your data. You need a backup. Again, this is Microsoft information, and in their opinion, any given business or discipline will have between 5 and 45 different applications that they are using. To that point, if you are using QuickBooks for your business, there is no API, application programming interface, between QuickBooks and Microsoft, and specifically Microsoft Copilot. So I'm sitting in a room asking about whether I could get information out of QuickBooks and push it over to Microsoft to a spreadsheet to be able to massage the data inside of Copilot, and there's no direct connect. QuickBooks has its own AI. They'd like you to be using that as opposed to the Microsoft product. But if you needed to get information out of QuickBooks, you've got to do a CSV, comma, separated value export to move it into Microsoft. And as I said earlier, if your time has a value, you may not want to go through these exercises. Another piece of information I found rather interesting was that a lot of the information that got into ChatGPT happened during COVID because college students weren't allowed to go into classes. So teachers had to upload and put online this massive amount of data, which was then scraped by the large language models. Now, there was an article recently by Sam Altman saying that they are spending millions of dollars every time someone uses the word please or thank you in an AI prompt. At the same time, they will also tell you that if you're not particularly nice to the AI, it may not give you a particularly nice answer back. And I will remind you that there is no semantic index team to kind of explain or rationalize this. And they were very specific in the question, no, Copilot is not sentient. It doesn't have any emotions. It's just a computer. But that please and thank you may work in your favor. Now, founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates, along with Fred Allen, had a recent quote here, and clearly a deeper thinker than I am because I have never thought of my plumber as an energy specialist. So if his belief is that this stuff is going away, hopefully no robot is coming into my house to fix my plumbing. Now, I've been referring to AI for a while now as industrial Darwinism because it's coming. Whether you use it or not, it is coming. It is going to be part of the landscape. And the more you can figure out how to use it and apply it, the better off you're going to be. So this is a question that I would ask, and ask it of yourself, because as I said, it's not going to go away. It's only going to be more of it. Why do you want to take a concern? Your clients may be going away. They could be losing business to AI or to their competitors who are using AI. Your kids may be looking to businesses that may be going to AI. So, time to start thinking about a slightly different strategy. Now, Anne Moriarty was a teacher at my daughter's school, my daughter's high school, and when my daughter got into the school year, freshman year in high school, parents assemble, and Anne Moriarty is talking to a group of parents, and basically what she said to us was that quote, and my daughter was a poster child. Her first job was with WeWorks, the Adam Newman co-sharing real estate business that eventually filed for bankruptcy. And she's gone on from there. But this is where we're at now, folks. But remember, all of these businesses are being examined by AI as a possible way of generating new usage. So understand this is coming, and everyone's usage of AI, whether it's Copilot, ChatGPT, Perplexity, it will be different. I will tell you, I use Perplexity for information gathering. I do not use AI for rewriting of things. It doesn't seem to work particularly well, as you could see earlier. If you want to get deeper into the game, and I'll remind you, as Bob had said, this is being recorded, so you will be able to get back to these screens. You will be able to find this information on the OpenAI Academy, and this particular screen that's got a whole slew of different AI courses that you can access. One other item on just general computer safety and Bitly's. I'm looking at the Udemy free courses. Nobody knows exactly where a Bitly will take you. So with that said, if you add a plus sign to a Bitly, it is like an intermediary step that will tell you the URL that you are headed to. I'll say that again. Add a plus sign to a Bitly, and you will know where the Bitly is going to take you. Now, this again is a personal thing. I do not capitalize the I of intelligence in artificial intelligence because I'm not sure it deserves the capital I yet, but it's coming. It does. The things it can do are quite extraordinary, and I urge you to get in the game. So, if you're familiar with SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, Copilot is all four simultaneously. Its integration with other Microsoft products as simple as pushing a button and typing a prompt. Again, it's all four of them. And understanding that when Microsoft Copilot is touching your data, have valid concerns about data loss prevention, grounding, that avoiding of hallucinations, and responsible AI, where they may do things or they may say, well, you're asking for something that's kind of out of our purview. And yes, I missed a close quote there. So in Microsoft's opinions, those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, it's coming, folks. So I hope you will take part of it. One other thought you might find of interest or value. And at this point, is there anything I can answer for you?
Okay, thanks very much, Bud. We will now use the remaining time for Q&A, and we'll take as many as we can up until the top of the hour. Just as a reminder, please use the Q&A button to ask your questions. And again, we'll take as many as we can until the top of the hour. Perhaps while we're just waiting for the questions to come in, Bud, there was one that did come in the chat from Sarah, and she said, so I evicted Cortana. How do I evict Copilot permanently? I keep having to evict Cortana every update. I have zero interest in either highly intrusive piece. So again,
there is a way, well, right now, if you are using M365 as a family user, I cannot speak as a business user, but as a family user, it is really hard to turn it off. If you go deep into settings, you can turn off Copilot. There are articles that I've seen online about how to turn it off. Um, there is, I think there was something out of PC Magazine. Microsoft is making it mighty difficult. They really want it to be there, and they really do not want you to make it go away. For them, it's a moneymaker. On the I'm sorry, I overlooked this. On the personal side, on the family side of M365, which costs now $129 a year for 5 licenses. $30 of that is Copilot. And if you go into your Microsoft user dashboard, there used to be a way to turn Copilot off. These things change constantly, and quite frankly, I'm not sure if there is a way to turn it off any longer.
Um, but there's a question from Edith that you may want to go back. She's asking, could you show again how to disable the feature that spies on our computer in ChatGPT?
Yeah, this will get a little kludgy for a moment, but bear with me and I'll get you there a little quicker. Again, you got to get it deep into your settings to turn these things off. Um, by agreeing to use it, that EULA, the end user licensing agreement, which nobody reads, but everybody wants to take advantage of the software, you've given them that permission to go in and grab whatever it is that you would like to do, what that they would like to do.
Okay, I think that's very helpful. Here's a question from Gail. I have Microsoft 365. If we do not engage the use of Copilot, does it still use and save our data?
According to Microsoft, your data is yours. They're not taking it for anything else but your usage. It stores in either OneDrive or SharePoint. And in that area, whatever their official vocabulary is, I'm sorry, it's in Microsoft land. They're not using it for anything else. It is yours and your usage only. That is what they claim.
Okay. We don't have any other questions in the queue right now, but again, we still have some time available. So if you have a question for Bud, please type it in and we'll get to it. But maybe while we're waiting, there's a question about whether the deck will be available, and I think the answer is it will be available through the recording, but not directly.
That is correct. I jumped into the chat and there is a question. Some industries, healthcare, law, places where client data confidentiality is critical. Is there an AI tool that is more recommended? Frankly, I don't know. In the words of Microsoft, they're protecting your data. In the reality of it all, you don't know. It's not something that you can see. You know, if you got an oil leak, you pull out of your garage, you'll see the oil on the floor of your garage. It doesn't work that way in computers, so it's very hard to say. The safest answer that I would advise is check the industry publications. This is this is not going away, and every industry is trying to address this in some capacity or another.
Okay,
That's
great.
it. He had a question here.
But we have a question from Matt. His understanding is the newest versions of Copilot will be able to read Outlook messages and Excel and data and Excel data and data from Office apps and answer questions about them. Is this functionality limited to Copilot and PCs?
From the event that I attended, the 10 hours of seminar, there were people in the seminar who are using Copilot to either read their email to them or answer it. In my own experience, I tried to use Excel, and I will give you another story. We do have the time. Like everybody else in America, I've got a credit card. At the end of the year, the credit card has done some sort of aggregation of all of the information and done some sort of a categorization of the purchases that I have made. Gasoline, healthcare, went shopping and bought groceries, bought clothing, whatever it may be. So I went into Copilot and I said, I want you to go into my Excel spreadsheet. I want you to go to the category column and I want you to sort. I've been doing this 20 years. I want you to sort the category column so that everything gets into its proper place. Once you've gathered all of the gasoline and the groceries and the prescriptions or stuff at the pharmacy, I want you to put a row in between each one of these category sets. And basically, Copilot said, oh, I can't do that. So I took it up with the 13-year veteran from Microsoft and said, I tried to. He said, well, Excel is columns all the way to the ad infinitum, and it's rows all the way down to who knows where. And because of the vastness of a spreadsheet, it's really hard for Copilot to work in these. So, but they're working on it.
Okay.
So that's what I know.
Okay, great. Here's a logistic question from James. Can the course list that you showed near the end there be available outside of the video?
Uh, Outside of the video. Let me scratch my head on that. If our admin is amenable to doing something about it, the answer is yes. Otherwise, I do not have the capability or resource to push it out the door from inside of my SCORE purview. But I will make inquiry on that.
Great, thanks, bud. Here's a question from Gail. Is there a paid version of ChatGPT where your data is not used for training?
Uh, Not being a ChatGPT owner, I can't give you a good answer to that.
Matt just put in the chat. He's saying yes.
And that is the good cop, bad cop thing that I thank him for profusely all the time.
Yeah, and he's saying that you can opt out of that in both the free and the paid version, and it does not require you getting the paid version of ChatGPT. So
There you go.
hopefully that's helpful, Gail. Yes. So we have a couple minutes. Okay, here's one from Gary. As Copilot is related to ChatGPT, should we expect that responses from Copilot will essentially be the same as those from ChatGPT?
No, and the reason, again, according to what I learned from Microsoft, is that what you are going to be getting out of Copilot will be the commingling of your data living in Microsoft and the information that lives in ChatGPT. So there would be an overlap, but there would not necessarily the information that you would get from Copilot in and of itself would be different from the information that you would get from Copilot plus its affiliation with ChatGPT.
We still have a minute or two. So going once, going twice. I think we have, that's all the questions that we have. So just as a reminder to everyone, the recording of the webinar is available, and it'll be up on our website within the next day or so under recorded webinars. And our next live webinar will be on Thursday at noon, when Meg Yadashevsky and Shelley Oroz will be presenting government contracting, getting government contracts in Connecticut. And again, more specifics on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. Again, if you want to take advantage of the free individual counseling, you can use that yellow bit.ly link on the screen, or just go to our website and click on Request a Mentor. And we'd really appreciate it if you could fill out your evaluations that are being sent at the end of the webinar. Very, very helpful to us going forward. And on behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank everyone for attending our live webinar today. And a special thanks to Bud Freund for presenting today. So thanks
Thanks for
very much,
listening,
Budley.
folks. Have a great day.
Great. Thank you.